25 hapo hivyo. Sahi nilienda niliuzio 28, 27 hapo, hiyo ndio bei yake.
However, it is not clear why there is a gas shortage in the country, though there are claims that KPRL production has been cut by 30% due to machine failure.
And the Central Organization of Trade Unions, COTU, has decried the worsening economic conditions, saying its members are finding it hard to survive on the current incomes. Citing inflation that is at 17.3%, fuel and food prices that have skyrocketed, the union has now issued an ultimatum to the government to act and contain the situation or face protests put on hold earlier this year.
The rising cost of living has seen inflation hit double-digit figures, as well as increments in food and fuel prices that have seen the government put on the spot severally, with work organizations asking the government to act. In May, COTU Secretary General Francis Atwoli threatened to call for a national strike over the rising cost of living, rejecting the government's offer for a 12.5% pay hike on Labor Day and instead demanding for a 60% pay hike. However, following consultations, the strike was called off, with the government promising to alleviate the workers' plight by taking care of inflation, a promise the union says is yet to be achieved.
Reliable information that there is a cartel that is giving out almost 2 shillings. There are people in the government who are getting 2 shillings from this increment of fuel. So we don't see in any way whether the control of food prices will help in any way. As long as we have people with vested interest in the government, that is not going to help us at all.
The union is now warning that the strike that had been called off could still take place, with many of the union members unsatisfied with how the government is handling the situation.
Wakati umefika na wakati ndio huu, serikali iamke kusaidia Kenyans. Hatuwezi kuwa na peace katika nchi wakati watu wanalala na njaa, wakati watu hawana kazi. Na sisi jukumu letu tutaendelea kudemand mishahara ya juu ili wafanyikazi wawe tayari kuweza kununua vyakula.
The union also fears that as a result of the increasing cost of imports, manufacturers might be forced to lay off workers. To avert this, the union is asking for a meeting between them, the Energy Regulatory Commission and the government.
Companies cannot afford to buy materials with the prices they can't understand.
Kamombote, Business Defined.
And 16 tourist facilities in the country that include hotels, lodges, camps and bush homes have today been awarded by Ecotourism Kenya in an eco-rating scheme that seeks to recognize their efforts in responsible and sustainable tourism. The facilities awarded have proved their commitment and awareness in environmental conservation as well as socio-economic investment.
The tourism sector has shown great resilience in spite of the local and global challenges and proved to be one of the best performing industry in the country. Ecotourism is aimed at promoting responsible tourism practices within the tourism industry by environmental protection, conservation and social, cultural and economic contributions. Ecotourism Kenya has come up with a way of awarding enterprises that are performing well with an eco-rating scheme of 3 levels of certification that includes the bronze, silver and gold eco-rating.
The future of Kenya's tourism is in ecotourism. The current number of the eco-rated facilities have provided good lessons, and there is evidence that ecotourism portends great potential to boost Kenya's tourism.
Ecotourism Kenya believes it can be the mainstream industry sector in the country if the government fully implements the tourism bill.
One of the main interesting things lacking in putting the tourism law into good practice is lack of a national tourism master plan. With a national tourism master plan, this law will actually become a very good working law for our tourism industry in this country.
Among the facilities that won awards include Little Governor's Camp, who won the bronze, Amboseli Serena Camp that won the silver, and Amboseli Porini Camp that won the gold, among other winners in the 3 categories.
My understanding of high voltage power lines is a series of towers and wires maybe 50 feet above the ground, something like that. So it's about landscapes, I think. It's the issue to discuss there will probably be about aesthetics and landscapes. So I think it can be rooted, we can't discuss about routing to minimize visual effect on landscapes.
The Elephant Paper Camp, which got the Gold Award too, generates between 11 and 12 million shillings per year through the share lease and conservation fees of the Conservancy. Linda Mbaisi for Business Defined.
And elsewhere, the government has been urged to include the poor and the youth in its formulation of policies to eradicate poverty in the country. Ministry of Planning and Vision 2030 Permanent Secretary Edward Sambili says the youth remain marginalized in many parts of the world, despite having the potential to provide innovative and workmanship.
According to the Household Budget Survey in 2005, 45.9% were living under the poverty line, 49.1% in the rural areas, while 33.7% were in the urban areas. The study found out that environmental degradation, climatic calamities, as well as the increasing cost of living were among the main challenges that were affecting the rural households. Since then, there have been increased challenges among the global economic crisis, the financial crisis, drought and famine, as well as the depreciation of the shilling. Dr. Edward Sambili has now called for the poor to be involved in policy making as they have answers to the issues affecting them.
Suggestions and actions by the poor themselves actually make a big difference. They can tell you what needs to be done, and if it is done, how that will solve the problems that they face.
He has also called for the youth to be involved in development issues, saying they occupy a huge percentage of the population. Sambeli says the government has formed the Youth Development Fund to tackle the problem of unemployment and urge the youth to use the money to better their lives.
Everywhere in the world, the youth resent being marginalized in decision-making processes and are eager to have greater control over their lives and over their environment.
The United Nations Development Programme also urged governments undertaking various austerity measures not to do so in the expense of development, saying this will lead to a challenge in achieving Millennium Development Goals.
In the name of fiscal austerity, we cannot cut back on common sense investment in people. Now is not the time to slide backwards. Now is the time to push harder to meet the Millennium Development Goals.
Kenyans were also urged to utilize modern methods of farming to ensure the country was food secure.
You have to remember to farm smart, to be intelligent. It's a business. Farmers are making 250,000, 300,000, 500,000 shillings a season. There is no reason why any Kenyan should settle for less.
He was speaking during the Poverty Day celebrations in Mathioya yesterday, where the theme of the celebrations was From Poverty to Sustainability and People in the Center of Inclusive Development.
Vidokezo vya ujenzi kutoka kampuni ya Saruj ya Rhino. Wakati unachanganya simiti, tumia maji safi ili kupata matokeo dhabiti. Ukitumia maji machafu, mchanganyiko wa simiti yako utakuwa hafifu, na usitumie maji ya chumvi kwani itaharibu chuma ya ujenzi. Vidokezo vya ujenzi kutoka kampuni ya Saruj ya Rhino.
KBC Channel 1, Kenya's watching.
Wale watu wa mpango wa kando.
The cancer possibility, did it ever cross your mind?
Like a question that has never been asked before, Tide Show Season 4 is here.
Start where you are. Actually, if you are zero, zero is a number. Hakuna 1 million without the zeros behind the one.
be it everyone's greatest commanding moment.
By the way, ukaniambia shuka chini kaa hapa. Hapa ndio nitakaa. Okay?
Baki hapo kidogo.
Nikaa hapa. So now that umeniambia nikaa hapa, so
utabaki hapo.
Yeah.
Things beyond human control.
I went to theater and they said it would take 5 hours. It went to 6 hours, 7 hours, 8 hours. They removed all the stomach, put aside the intestine, they put aside.
They told me the possibility of not being normal again because I would pass stool through the stomach.
A wake-up call to the human will.
Kwa darasa tumejazana tuko MP3 na shule zingine najua kuna empty seat.
Welcome back. You're watching Business Defined. Well, the Taxpayers' Week has entered its second day today, with the Kenya Revenue Authority officials being optimistic that tax compliance will increase after the week-long sensitization. During the week, KRA officials will educate and inform Kenyans on the importance of complying with tax requirements, as well as taxpayers' rights and waivers. And now to shed us more light on this, we are hosting Kenya Revenue Authority Senior Deputy Commissioner, Marketing and Communication, Kennedy Onyonyi.
Thank you.
It's good to have you, Mr. Kennedy Onyonyi, on Business Defined.
Thank you.
So, what do you seek to achieve in the long term by hosting the Taxpayers' Week?
Yeah, the most important aspect of Taxpayers' Week is to appreciate the effort the taxpayers have put in ensuring that we realize the objective of generating adequate funds to finance the activities of the government. So we would like the culture of compliance to be ingrained in their minds and hearts, and we would like that to be a permanent feature in the activities of Kenyans. That is why we are recognizing the efforts they make in complying.
Mm-hmm. You and I understand that paying tax is not a walk in the park. It's not a very interesting affair. It's not a good thing, you know, and or it's not fun. Let me say it that way. It's not fun. So how do you expect to pass the message across that paying tax is not only fun, but it is a requirement as a responsible citizen?
Yeah, certainly paying tax is not just a legal requirement, but it's also a moral obligation. We'd like people to have this in mind. And what we have decided, what we are doing in order to make it much easier for people to comply is to simplify the processes and also to automate our processes, take services even much closer to taxpayers so they find it as easy as possible to comply. And also we educate them on their rights and obligations as taxpayers so that they know what they are entitled to and they know what they are obliged to do. Mm-hmm. So to us that is very important.
Mm-hmm. And what is the rate of compliance in Kenya?
Well, just like in other parts of the world, the great majority of taxpayers actually are compliant. I think about 90% worldwide on average are compliant, but there is a small group which is generally not compliant. So we'd like as many people as possible to be among the compliance. We have actually a compliance strategy which links treatment of taxpayers to their attitude towards compliance, so that those who are willing to comply, we assist them, we simplify processes for them, we educate them, we try to give them as much assistance as possible. Mm-hmm. And for those who are difficult, at the tail end, we take full force of the law to ensure that they comply. So we'd like the great majority of taxpayers to be where the majority generally are supposed to be, at the bottom of the pyramid, where we have many people complying. And the few who are at the top who don't comply, we use the available mechanism to ensure that they also come down and comply like others.
Yeah, the question that I posed to you was, do you have the figures of tax compliance among tax eligible payers?
Well, you know, when it comes to compliance, it is an ongoing process, because today somebody might comply, maybe he's paid the right amount, the next time he might comply by paying the taxes, but maybe paying late, or maybe not paying the right amount. So it is a dynamic process. But generally, a great majority of taxpayers are compliant, and there are few who are not. So those are the ones we try to focus on. We use different strategies depending on their attitude towards compliance.
Why would you think some people don't like paying taxes?
Well, I think it is an attitude. There are those people who have decided they're not going to pay taxes. So
what?
Yeah, so they'll always engage us in the game of hide and seek. So we have to look for them, use the measures that are punitive and deterrent to ensure that they change their ways. And for those who sometimes, there are also those ones who also are not, they are not hardcore, but they don't want to comply. So for those ones, we have to deter them through detection. That is why we have employed other mechanisms to deter them, like using the scanners at the ports of entry, having patrol units, having the K9 unit. All these are used for purposes of dealing with this category of taxpayers. But for those who comply, we simplify the process for them, we take services closer to them, we ensure that it is even much cheaper and convenient to comply. And we recognize and reward their efforts.
And as we come to the end of this interview, how would you convince somebody to pay taxes whereas they are traveling on potholed roads, whereas the schools do not have adequate teachers, whereas the schools don't have adequate stationaries and all this, and whereas the insecurity is very high?
Yeah, certainly in the past it was a problem. It was. But now, as you can see, things have changed significantly, because people can see road constructions going on, they can see facilities, medical facilities being upgraded, and medicine available in hospitals, they can see schools being upgraded and things like that. So when they see their taxes going into better use, it is actually much easier for them to comply. And when they don't see their taxes working for them, that's when some people feel there is that temptation not to comply.
Good. Well, as you said that one of the best way to motivate people to pay tax is to make good use of their taxes, and I hope this is being done.
Certainly, yeah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wanyoni, for joining us on Business Defined. We look forward to see you again in the future.
Thank you.
When the need be.
Yeah, thank you.
Good. Senior Deputy Commissioner Marketing and Communications at the Kenya Revenue Authority, Kennedy Wanyoni, telling us something about Taxpayers Week that is currently ongoing in various parts of the country. You're watching Business Defined, and now moving on. The government has rolled out an ambitious program that seeks to ensure food security in Baringo County. Speaking at the official opening of the agricultural show in Kabarnet, Minister for Livestock Mohamed Kuti said the government has allocated 12 million shillings to the expansion of irrigation schemes in the area.
The government has urged residents of Kabarnet in Baringo County to expand their production and consumption habits to ensure alternative food sources are available throughout the year to cushion themselves against major crop failure and death of livestock due to erratic weather patterns.
I do urge the people of Baringo to broaden their production and consumption habits to ensure alternative food sources are available throughout the year and to cushion themselves against major crop failures and death of livestock due to drought.
Kuti said that there is need to enhance livestock and crop value-added products to provide income, medicines and fodder for livestock. Kuti encouraged rain-fed production for emerging drought-tolerant crops like sorghum, millet, aloe vera and pigeon peas.
To reduce poverty among the communities in the ASA, we need to diversify sources of income and employment opportunities. This will require enhancing livestock and crop value-added products such as processing meat, milk, honey, hides and skin, gold, as well as soap and oil making.
Uganda plans to start refining krill oil from its fields in the year 2014. President Yoweri Museveni says the proceeds will help end the economy's dependence on donor funds. Meanwhile, Rwanda's annual average inflation eased by 0.88% point to 6.64% in September, down from 7.5% in the previous month. Here are more details of these and other stories from the region.
Uganda discovered commercial oil deposits in 2006 in the Albertine Basin along its border with the Democratic Republic of Congo. Last year, the Minister of Energy said the first construction of the refinery will begin in 2012, starting with capacity for limited production to satisfy the domestic market, whose demand ranges between 20,000 to 25,000 barrels per day. The refinery's capacity is expected to be ramped up gradually thereafter to meet regional and international demand, with output peaking at about 200,000 barrels per day. But President Yoweri Museveni says, and I quote, "Since we discovered the oil and gas, the agents of foreign interests have been running up and down, urging us to produce the oil as quickly as possible." End of quote. He says
Well, time now to have a look at the money market, the shares, and see how the market has been performing, or the market performed yesterday. And turnover stood at 121.5 million, while the number of shares traded stood at 8.3 million shares. The NSE 20 share index was up at 0.31 points to settle at 68.80. The all share index, or NASI, was also up 12.01 points to settle at 3,289.51 points. And now having a look at different sectors of the market, where we had in the agriculture sector, where we had Sassini Limited changing hands at between 12 shillings and 60 cents, up from 12 shillings and 55 cents, moving 4,400 shares. In the banking sector, where we had Equity Bank, which went down 1 shillings to trade at 17 shillings and 45 cents from 17 shillings and 55 cents in the previous session. Commercial and services sector, where we had Kenya Airways selling at 24 shillings and 50 cents from 25 shillings and 50 cents, selling 43,600 shares. Construction and allied sector, where we had Bamburi Cement selling 1,000 shares at between 155 shillings and 160 shillings. And 150 shillings, I beg your pardon. Energy and petroleum sector, where we had Konakobi changing hands between 9 shillings and 80 cents, down from 9 shillings and 80 cents. And that is a look at the market. Time now to have a look at the Forex report. Well, and to keep in touch with us and to get more details about the stories that we have aired plus more, go to www.kbc.co.ke. That is our website, and get to know more about today's happening, both in Kenya, regional and as well as international news. Time now for us to take you back to, or to take you to Parliament for the live streaming of Parliament proceedings from the Parliament buildings. I am O'Brien Kimani. Thank you very much for watching Business Defined. We look forward to see you again tomorrow. Have yourself a lovely afternoon.